a different narrative and opportunity, more substantial discussion between the mainland and Taiwan. And third, the plan is necessary. China has rejected all forms of QBQ and no longer negotiate absolute recommitment to the third communique. That's Camp 17. Beijing does not believe in Washington anything for organization of Taiwan as a China links and trying to link American concession on Taiwan and cooperation to reject the QBQ making such a madness ridiculous has taken sovereignty and taken acceptance to U.S. sovereignty over Long Island. We're going to show a bargain even though the war was really appealing. They immediately rejected the bargain, accepting the deal and undercut China's sovereignty. Also damaged China's leadership. The two sides agreed to the 1982 communiques in China simply will not engage in bargains that call question sovereignty over Taiwan today. The PRC's global power. At the same time, China's leaders are much more vulnerable at home. China's leaders know they cannot afford to look weak on the mix out Taiwan and genuine red line issue. And our theory of China is true. First, deterrent strategies fail to account for CCP motivation, reunification, and sacred commitment that shapes decision making. This more 16. Sacred commitment is once one reason China wanted Taiwan back enough to its war. Sacred commitment should be the taken from mainstream more general national interest. China has many natural interests. The Chinese government does not have sacred commitment to each of the China is fundamental because a single woman inhabited Chinese territory, not yet returned to the world. This territory is a powerful order today. They take mainland China identity. China isn't willing to go to war over Taiwan if allowed to declare independence. If it means war, the U.S. either should choose long-term nor short-term material interests of your daring calculation. The sacred commitment to general credit of Chinese behavior and given situation. The Chinese government towards the road for compromise on Taiwan. Realism the something with the Chinese attitude towards the Taiwan. China's commitment to Taiwan is unwavering, though economic independence against the cost of war. It's not clear that they lessen the danger of the conflict. There's little material-driven discourse and security concerned in the case that are being very fruitfully employed to real approaches to Sino-American relations. Second, China's not revisionist and says all possible wars. Tristan, 19. Despite considering that China's more ambitious ever, China behavior is more limited than analysts argue that China's territory claims improved military capability, expanding the influence and parts of the world to push international organization. China's not increased its military spending even as the economy is growing. China like reclamation of only about territories previously significant to the Chinese go. China has expanded the maritime community so much as taking on the approach towards resolving existing disputes and has self-little to strengthen its story. Made no moves to affect the U.S. leaders want the U.S. to remain active in the area. China's decision to cooperate upon the goal has been coupled with an effort to reassure and engage the U.S. in open competition. There is any hardly any evidence that China's focus on competition. China will not be able to embark on this into the future. The U.S. maintain military strength even though China's succeeded in overtaking the U.S. The monetary permanence is now required to make other states once scared. And more evident, China's resolved border disputes and comply with international law. Chilo, 19. China showed defensive China for portion-friendly relationships and settle disputes. Market on disputes.
Okay. Good.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you've made arguments about miscalculation. How does reducing arms solve the miscalc internal link?
So our ping evidence talks about how arms sales make the perception that Taiwan is going to declare independence, which causes China to perceive it bad. Additionally, it's about how militarization of the Taiwanese Strait causes that miscalculation, while our Freeman evidence...
Okay, so you've read broader evidence about how China perceives U.S. intervention in East Asia. Obviously, after the planned troop deployments still exist, 29,000 in South Korea, 50,000 in Japan. What does the plan do about those?
Yeah, sure. I have a few things to answer that. One, I don't think that's true at all. Let's talk about troop deployment and military intervention in Taiwan. And to the extent that we're able to solve for that, our fire sheet evidence is actually really good. Our last piece of fire sheet evidence, it talks about how it would bring all three entities to the table, those three being China, Taiwan, and the U.S., and it would form a diplomatic process to resolve the conflict. So any alt causes to war are immediately resolved there because all of our intentions are...
Another question, the Moore evidence says it's based on interviews conducted with 28 Chinese-American IR experts. Who are these 28 experts and why should we trust them?
You can look at it. I can't list every single one off the top of my head, but a lot of them have graduated Chinese international institutions. Some of them are really well-respected Chinese journalists. The evidence outlines every single
Okay, the bottom of the Moore card says ahistorical realism just does not explain China's attitude towards Taiwan. For China's obsession with Taiwan is simply not rational from a conventional rationalist, utilitarian, materialist-driven realist perspective. And then it also said, in this case, it would have not been very fruitful to employ realist approaches to Sino-American relations. You then read two cards after that, which describe Chinese behavior through the lens of defensive realism. Reconcile this two for me.
Very disagree with that. Our evidence about how China is not revisionist is an argument about how China overall is not defensive, is not revisionist.
The Jalil card literally says China has shown defensive realism.
Yeah. Our card is like, our more evidence is about in a specific area of Taiwan. You can
that's not how realism works. Realism is a description of how.
That's how the more evidence.
Listen, the Jalil card says China always acts according to defensive realism. You then read a card that says in the context of Taiwan.
Our Jalil evidence gives examples about how China has shown defensive realism in examples such as resolving border disputes with Nepal.
And then you read a card that says that China's drive towards Taiwan is not explained by defensive realism, but an irrational drive to incorporate Taiwan.
China?
Like, those are two contradictory arguments.
Taiwan is a sacred commitment, meaning that any land that they think or perceive as theirs, realism is thrown out the door because they will fight for whatever they need.
No, but you said China's defensive realism.
In other areas such as like Africa,
the card does not say that though.
Nothing to do with the sacred commitment.
The cards about revisionism and realism literally say China only cares about responding to U.S. expansion. That is literally what those cards say.
In areas.
And then you read a card that says that's not true in the context of Taiwan.
Please introduce a card that says that.
Okay, the Jalil evidence talks about how China shows defensive realism and then provides examples such as resolving border disputes and then also complying with international law. I'm not sure how that
Last
says
question, what is the relationship
even
between the
feels
process of
unreasonable
debating and the
basis.
enactment of the plan?
What's the relationship? We just think that the judge should endorse the plan if it's a good idea.
Okay. It's sent, draft, and then the...
Sorry, just said one.
Yeah, and then that's a war advantage.
Did you send it out already?
Yes. Is anyone not ready? Okay.
Our thesis claim is simple. The construction of the 1AC reduces warfare to a series of normative decisions, troop deployments, the movement of arms, internal disputes, and tensions between great power. This is a grossly inadequate framework for understanding the violence of the European growth. Enacting war territorialization, popular soldier tanks and policies are cross-combative to generate trade black markets and food. The devastating of body on humans, animals, to fight back mosquitoes, ecosystem warfare, exchange between theological warfare, practice and war, shipment, calculation, war, names of mutational rhythm warfare. This reduces the warfare, the orbit, instrumental, odds with soft warfare, line, the graphs of relationship warfare, state of pressure, and warfare, the state of inches, until you attempt to bring the dialogue to well and mode violence and warfare new organizations. Echoed across the planet, the drug cartels and industry militia are using digitalized information to resume weapons, social media, weapons development, and new control of rock coming, fighting community, and multiply, gaining momentum, the returning home in the form of debt, unemployment, social traumatic brain injuries, as well as lingering national, communal, or national health, the battle result of Operation American Chemistry, quality, award, advantages, own organs, and weapons of normative batteries, the territorial conscience, it's a whole consumed effect rather than consent on the races, which one no investigation of what is the collective industrialization piece as a relative blood compound generation bodies in 2019, created by the state of war. The words of W.E.B. Du Bois have never rung more true. The war that has begun again, in fact, has never ended. The ecology of warfare writes itself in the fabric of relations. Grove 19, the study of war pursues here, or was aligned on the follow the classic hindered red interrupts daily life of war. It's reduced itself into manipulative and self-implied loop, power, arms, seals, are computed to pursue war. The same making annihilation, something arms, mobilization, oral declaration, much warfare, the normal very population makes it possible. In life of war, body, something to an ecology, war, we can date life of global wars, kinder wars, ecology, names you're seen, rather than merely correlation for an environment, for politics, because it's called in a settlement, colonial, capitalism, ecological destruction, based on change, our intensive fabric of social relations, requires rethinking of war, the African American, continue to neighbor Americans, each combined practice, more activities, and continental scale, proper understanding of world plays in, global system commitment to world, world, causal agency norms. Really open to rapid, nothing more than become world is forming. It requires constant capable capturing relations of the world and making war. The Eurocene exceeds the parameters of America. This global regime of sovereign terror sustained by Chinese complicity growth. And if it wasn't an interior and exterior, the post-colonial period which sovereignty is unequally distributed, the classical war for selection, more considered the best over a very short time. The historical problems that came about war, and there's always direct definition of national boundary, social classification, humanization, also economizing. Words that less than academic tendency runs through the last 100 years. Words that autonomous, stretching of which change also sees the rights of colonial change and production. The genesis of the Russian geology had also produced the various stages of all continue post-geological. Those days the difference of Russian similar to war drowning negative entropy, the rising power Russia and China did not present alternative Eurocene. These things also appetite to the phenotypic characteristics of parts of the renewable figure. Eurocene visa visible forms of life and tournament routines out. Our theory is nothing more than the engineering of policies on the Eurocene through the 1AC construction of China's defensive realism, perfecting of a world science meant to intensify all two causal relationship with the pure dominant growth. In actually, our proposal is kind of world science and possible DoD money, no city on economy, the rapid one more close to the advanced global racism, not in the state of the main, more than has ever changed all by social around the institutions that they saved us. Even the planet crumbles in the only pure dreams of their own internationalism or realism, idealism about the international orders and their self-satisfied with the cycles of war and dominance realists, both of optimism and positive variety, respect of romantic empiricism, order the experience and out there comes a useful strategic insight into the anti-epistemophilia represent position advantage for the global board game catastrophe policy being engineered, but relevant to death rattle packs American anything can come study anything American drone operate nuclear catastrophe or macroeconomic manipulation, like state rules, concepts like the place of secretary of violence, entrepreneurs, mercenary drug lords, CEOs, presidents, and drug source commissioners, European geopolitics, believes mutates and reforms certain systems and states of investment to have time publicly stated, strategic ends and concepts like national and scheme publicly claimed the tragedy, redeems themselves a legend of horror that from the collective bonds of one of these moves to influence Chinese behavior through the policy modification is cybernetic resilience, building par excellence there. Understanding of international relations stems from a command and control paradigm developed at the end of the Second World War in order to predict and modulate Chinese behavior dire and with Ferd and Mondeko in 19. Discussion of relation comes to intentional desire China and Russia must be understood toward ramification ruling class power, mergers, and military industrial conflicts with important part of nations. Instead of the new order, the computer networks played an important role. Use vector of the extension and to commodities. Industrial automation, supply chain, logistics, financial is crucial. The allowing of classification world market has not been finally generated new wars and conflicts that vary across the planet, including the invasion of occupation of Afghanistan, counter-terrorist operation Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Nigeria, Philippines, Mali, Libya, and the theaters, also called border terror. Interplanetary future conflicts between Kashmir, Chechnya, and Yemen also overlaps the Israel operation in Palestine, and Palestinians also contribute over the same nuclear weapons and emerging fronts of building and developing use of cyber weaponry or counter-insurgency operations, domestic surveillance, and digital strikes. Their decision to reduce this debate and brand of buying and selling arms reveals their inability to speak to the colonial accumulation and imperialism that shapes the assailment world growth. In 1915, arms are sold in person that weapons left behind surplus, combined with electronic waste throughout the global south. In modern sports, we're going to do the critical outcomes have a quantitative advantage. Units being measured has to be interchangeable. Current quantification, measurable quantities are quantifiable. That would not be relevant to fighting quarter possessed by so many minds that coming out from large caravans, modern mobilities are reversible. They should require the understanding that assemblage of things were organized life force. The island wars obviously where people are the ecology of warfare ensures an endless source of mutation and innovation for weaponry. The one sees moves to analyze war through cause and effect and intensifies the rhythm of the ecology war growth. In 19, the mutation and innovation wars generated resistance to beyond the device of bullets and bombs and machine valley sales of the liberal ecology would not come technological wars always been assembled. But obviously, the system being consistent with optical environment parts become more vibrant. Application on linear increase extrapolation physical properties, and also validity, creativity, allowing history, which is not follow. Extreme line consistent ability that reverse ecology represents the entanglement of objects, making eminent creativity possible at every single level that really lingers, mutates, and levels intent. Causality, observation category, ability to analyze cause and effect, has the lines of instant. No certain moments in properties that might be captured with the consistency that acts as if they're vote negative for failed IRs and affirmation of negative thinking. Anything less than a pessimistic reading of U.S. empires drenched in the blood of millions annihilated under Gerson growth. And actually, no history of the election has been done tracking the parts under practical cool optimism, has some reading, understanding, explaining within everything failed IR from the negative thinking, and alternative moralizing insights freedom beyond it. One is always used to scholarship. The moment it comes to the underblessed names for holy distortion, it is our obligation to make things better while trying to failure. It's also breeding off rebellion of pessimism. It should just be no negativity ground for feeding that feeling is only fleeting. Learn to live that level of these virtues. Also ends up in self-will cost to not the part of virtue. Refuse to serve life and reject the dream. And it appears to recognize the danger, neoliberal direct modern scholarship. Some ask whether evidence for the loss of war, atrocity, famine, and crusade, thinking managed on gentle pessimism and also consider to consider the existence of teaching world and another possible world each and every together. The rest of him is leaving the pragmatism maybe be buried alive together. They will try to persuade you to try to die for a better future, but you should be refused of false choices of the money thieves. All of this sounds too pessimistic. I would counter that there is no normative guardrail to prevent reality from being too catastrophic. And 19, what if the world is part of that? There are things worth the down plots with statistics costs and that are trying to currently no alternative that we amend the reality that reversing is also possible against logic being having to that is terrible. We can develop a realist pessimistic also finding any way you can have to Sunday of the way forward except that it can't be this. Utilitarian risk calculus is irredeemably violent, will always create zones of sacrifice drawn on lines of racist and colonial logic. So even if the scaling off of impact calculus is necessary, it's insufficient. COVID-19. Utilitarian risk calculus is very good for making them people unless it's still that equally accurate consequences comes to planning risk claims all well shared and egalitarian distribution of starved, racialized, and selective solidarity to observe the characterized well in the types of application complex zones of colonization represent 500 nutrition conquest civilization and forms of life. No single worldview floating political there is a frame that holds mass assemblies together and of both the system and inflation and interest shifts in scale from place in planetary facts integration without planetary political condition possibility and military talk planetary usually face requires settlement cosmopolitanism to modernization. No political project towards the future can consider global scale understanding how we will really explode the plurality of planet can invest something less nasty than when it comes to global order, the advantage. First, there are claims of Chinese revisionists or rooting Orientalist project of mapping Chinese behavior that aligns itself with the Western judicial form of area studies that renders the world as a target and silent war against racialized subjects. How it takes the most important elements of Western moral elements, bombing sources have been an active gesture, a world against the acts of evil, we're not fostering each other wars, actually a moral obligation to felt imagined dangers to alienate the moral element, justified word by dichotomy and logic, some other matters, much less than transcendent and aspiration itself, individual humanity, also same national phantasm of innocence and oscillation on war, the systematic formation of area studies that massive intent to real condemned series to be studied field of information of people and dissemination of our different perpetuation, political and electoral hegemony, the objective question knowledge peace and became peace substantiated elaborate military worlds of target political activities are filled inside the policy ideology war display development interactive information on part of treaty logic knowledge that is derived from the same kind of warfare based support but endless violence of warfare a stroke of targeting consolidate omnipotence of sovereign and all of the mystery of targeting is just by direction of reflection of virtual worlding has unleashed the problem of dropping Tom guns in the United States always like the same position of the bomber. There's no internal link between alliance affirmation of third community and solving miscalculation. Their evidence is specific and is responsible for multiple causes. A support is troop and naval deployments. The U.S. maintains 29,000 troops in South Korea and 50,000 in Japan and maintains regular naval exercises in South China Sea. Also the secret meetings K and 611 Japan will come forward. They may highlight the first time from Beijing. Satisfied resolutely opposed closure Beijing blood new China meetings. It's publicized the ability to potential leaks to China upgrade into relations here to say second is trade war. Clear and then joint economic war and polarizing Chinese economy. China has constituted great threat to national economy. Mark Carter economy.
At where?
Economy. Threat to economy.
Yeah, gotcha. Chinese economy or the other one?
Constitute a grave threat to long-term health and prosperity of the United States economy.
Okay, sorry. This one. Alright, got it. Alright, good for cross.
Yes.
Cool. Your claims of util being bad, what's the alternative?
So we'll make arguments about why you should prioritize ongoing imperial violence over the future mythic intervention that Grove says is always prioritized within Western imaginary.
Okay, the Grove evidence is about like how we should not use util, not about policymakers. Why does that apply to like the
Grove is
needs?
Grove is describing the way that policymakers and currently enact policy
It says, like,
and makes it normative.
Util risk calculus is bad because like quote we all share. It's like the understanding.
That's his argument against people who use utilitarian risk calculus. It's not about like we as in we people in this debate. It's about it's a normative description of the way that it works.
So let's talk about like the defensive realism arguments. If China's not defensive realist, what are they?
So we're going to impact turn the frame of the nation state to start. That's what Grove says when he says we need to stop engineering a polis and stop inscribing how countries act through the lens of the nation state.
Like I'm just wondering, like, can we not know if
it's not that truth doesn't exist, rather you're engineering of a national polis that China's defensive realism fits neatly into nation-state systems that combat each other.
So
is
I
false.
disagree with the idea that we say they fit neatly. We say that Taiwan is a fundamental issue, which proves that they're not like they're
or as a
not
way to
definitely
describe
in
conflict.
a binary of defensive.
So that's actually not what defensive realism is. Defensive realism, as a theory, says that this mode of behavior always explains how China will act in the future. Your arguments in 186 classics that are like we can say contradictory stuff don't really make sense.
That's how our cards.
That's not how defensive. That's not like you can't read a theory of power about how countries operate and then say that's not how it works.
Cannot be described by cause and effect. How can it be described?
So
or can we just never describe
the Grove evidence says that war is not a cataclysmic eruption, i.e. the launching of bombs, the fighting, the deployment of troops, but rather it is a very way that under the Eurocene social relations are written. So the quote is that settlement Eurocene is the term that Grove uses to describe the social milieu of modernity. So it's saying that settlement, colonialism, capitalism, misogyny, those are all ways that warfare goes down in everyday social relations, and your conception of it as a simple like shooting of weapons is insufficient to address the violences that actually occur in day-to-day life.
Okay, cool. So how does just saying that like nuclear war bad mean that we prevent you from actually being able to solve?
The 186 is not just nuclear war bad. You've created
Like
yes, you're correct. You read a card saying nuclear war is bad, but you've created a
Grove's
scenario.
Grove's point is that the assumption that there's a unique banality that is introduced via the conception of conflict between countries ontologizes war as that and naturalizes things like settlement, misogynies, and capitalism, which are always seen as corollaries of war, but never as war in and of themselves.
Like, how does the alternative function?
So the alternative is an affirmation of what Grove calls negative thinking, that pessimism in the face of the demand to create another policy report, to create another.
Like, what does that mean?
Like, what do you want me to say?
Like,
it's refusal to create another policy report. It's
so, like, in the context of the defensive realism arguments, we'll make arguments about why the alternative interrupts the process of constantly trying to inscribe behavior onto nation states.
What does the alt do?
By affirming failed IR as a refusal to see IR as a coherent theory in the first place.
Amen.
Okay. Sorry, you're good.
Stop. 720.
Give me 1 second.
It's case. Case. Sorry, I'm just sending it out. deterrence fails because China sees Taiwan as a sacred commitment, meaning that it supersedes any realist decision calculus in war making our wars worse than yours. That's swung in more outside reduction of arms in accordance with the third joint communique signed by both the US and China in 1982. This war is inevitable and goes nuclear. This war can occur through invasion, miscalculation, a variety of other measures. That's Greece and Wayne Chris on paying only the plan itself to facilitate dialogue, resolve conflict. That's Palestinian Freeman claims. They say that claims of China revisionism are bad. That's cool. We don't do that. We say that China is defensive realist. To the extent that we do, we just say that China will do whatever they can over Taiwan because it is a sacred commitment, meaning that any issues of national sovereignty, China will fight till the bitter end. That's not a double turn with defensive realism. That's just saying that China is defensive realist in the abstract, but when it comes to things like sovereignty, they will do whatever they will. And all of our evidence is backed up by interviews and history. Their evidence is just a really cool FYI. It can't hold water when you actually analyze history. Yes, internal link to solve. That was our virus evidence. It says that it creates a modus vivendi to be able to have all three Taiwan, US, and China come to the negotiating table and negotiate a solvency. That means that we can resolve any of their all causes and able to solve miscalled things like meetings are resolved by the diplomatic process, and then, as well as the trade war. But the trade war is over anyway, so I don't really see why that matters. Okay. Our interpretation is that we get to weigh the F versus the K. Talking about Taiwan and the third communique are vital to understanding the diplomacy and intricacies of the document and the region. Also key to fairness as anything else is neg bias and ensures every team goes 3-3 utopian fiat as a voter. It's impossible to debate against perfection. Prefer util. It's the most ethical as it's the only moral equalizer. Don't let them get away with asserting that our impacts are fake. That's what the debate is about. High magnitude, low probability first. Bostrom 13. External Earth threatens the extinction of Earth and is you just talking for judging us to resist and maybe extreme magnitude of small probability could be highly significant. Our species introducing an entirely new risk. We have no track record of surviving longevity, offers no grounds for optimism. Bulgarian errors on speculative scenarios in which we cannot assign precise probability with the non-apply risk and negligible probability can be different here. There's something cannot be objectively same as risk and uncertainty and error prone or assessment of factor. This dominates world industry phenomena complex dynamics are now new checks opposed to an A indicates X is an extremely small probability some flawed to be must be a conditional probability of X given A is crucially flawed may fairly behind. To the extent that util ignores marginalized populations, you want to know what else does war? War is uniquely bad for marginalized populations as it always pushes them to the back burner. So the only thing that we can ethically do is try to prevent war as much as possible. Now, therefore, the realism today, realism is true and inevitable. Dear 14. After the survival of humankind is not a deficit in moral disposition, but an old political. Restriction by human nature, not constitute political conflict. The states are only relevant actions can be for power, more consideration, secondary, when said against survival political leaders, every security over morality, even more morally enhance humankind. So based the same kind of scenarios, moral enhancement will not motivate political leaders to manage the degree of the world's largest structure. A structure of politics and builds into secret competitors and the present possible enemies in the future. Leaders will fail to cooperate, engage in wars, even if leaders become less egotistic, power seeking by engineers, only to yield the results within the present framework. And I'm going to finish. Leo talks about how China's defensive realist in the context as it doesn't go over their national sovereignty. Julian 19. Something speaks within Pakistan, APEC, ARF, the SEO, UN membership stabilizing rule, the nuclear issue in the SCS dispute existed for centuries. US increase in interference. China is concerned with maintaining the position in the system. Now, again, the real problem with this critique is it's a really cool way to think about the world, and it's a really interesting FYI, but the problem is when you analyze history, none of this holds any weight because obviously all states would act in their own best interest. If you said the US will pull out of all military engagements, what do you think China would do? Would they just say, okay, cool? No, obviously not. That obviously all of these things are burning, which means that the diplomatic process of the plan is necessary, and realism is obviously true in the context of nation states. Now, all of their endless warfare stuff, there's no risk of it. Grade 7. In the hands of a paranoid leader, prevention could be a policy for endless warfare. However, the American system was designed for the purpose of containing executive Vietnam and Iraqi Repeal War system with back public attitudes. The claim that policy which includes a preventive option likely to search for general security is not convincing. It should be dismissed. What it is a debating point with a low private merit. Now, I realize in the last example I said China, I meant Russia because China's defensive realist. Anyway, and U.S. won't do more mindless interventions. Mandalone 11. Nation building has never been popular. The country never liked it. Is even less now, and we're not going to do it again. There won't be enough money. The really other demands will be clear to the politicians. No long-range legitimate sources that having foreign policy would be narrow to animally exclude intervention. The first new post-Cold War decades of a single unit. The units come to an end, and we can challenge specific violence with state action and IR. Picture of 2018. They have tried to extricate themselves from the IHL framework, but have not managed to pose a radical change in military practices, let alone the acceptability of war and campaigning against particular use of force and suffering they inflict in the world. And world limited possibility. This should not be discarded. Genealogy of emergency idea weapon. So at least ideas are already find the balance between humanitarian cost and military gains. In the case of closer munitions, landmines, practice, stigmatizing closer munitions of US policy has been constrained in important ways. And there are no prior question empirical validity is a sufficient justification for action. Emphasis on metaphysical hurdles destroys any chance of effectively describing the world and guiding the action. 0 and 2. A frenzy for words is like an epistemology. Ontology has a tendency to prioritize ontology and epistemology are humanitarian and or interpretive powers of the letter of Amelia. Simple function of the form of the explanatory power is not dependent on ontological commitments to rational truth. The theory may provide the best accountability to us. Ontological epistemology, so sophistication is not the most important. The challenge inside which the most this is most apt in terms of getting a grip on action theory driven WordPress. I'm mistaken believe that in the surface social science to generate explanation required characterize my understanding, misunderstanding the enterprise of science and strategy, slips in the promotion, genealogy, repeatability, prioritization, ontology, and epistemology, at least the idea that there can only be one theoretical approach to these things around various circle rashes. To the extent that warfare always has a proximate cause, to the extent that it's inevitable, we can always resolve the proximate cause, i.e. the proximate cause of the Taiwanese war being national sovereignty and arms sales, and they link to themselves by dismissing post-colonial liberal perspectives and the concrete need for colonial subjects. Rejecting liberalism feeds into global fascism. Claudio 19. Liberalism throws the out the battle. Their anti-liberal scholarship service started you can critique into blanket dismisses concerns about unwittingly wedded themselves in the study of global history of liberalism. Must acknowledge the contribution to colonial thinkers in its developmental moves and even do it even perfect in the colony or present teaching liberalism and elections have been averse to defending liberal values, preferring a utopian vision of politics that cannot be tested nor implemented. Frustration only they lead to intellectuals to admire dictators also brought them knowledge positions against liberalism. I guess you can market liberalism. Now the link to be proper. US and China have already adopted the worst form of security thinking. The only option is clear. Actionable policy recommendations, detailed alternative, and the best scholarship is our particular app is true. Gold Team 15. The vision for US China conflict is increased markedly. Scholars not to concrete scholarship rules leads relationship from the brain. It is if you're living your zero-sum mentalities in both countries would be feelings feel hardly rely on hypothetical shock absorbers of brand catastrophe. The rivalry carries the risk of nuclear warfare. China has moved ahead of the US in that not insignificant area of cruise missile rejection may apply the Chinese strategy. The Washington is comfortable with the rivalry and conflict relying on evidence and ideas from abroad. Alright, Chinese American thinkers and intellectual framing the form of concrete pros and necessary scholars prefer to theorize what is required actually specific and actionable policy recommendation informed that by rigorous political science. The king misunderstands the focus of the affirmative. We agree that buying and selling arms aren't the only thing that causes war, but rather affirmative analyzes various structures like national and sacred commitments and how those play a role. We solve our scenarios via diplomacy, not by reducing arms, and this is the best thus the best metric to solve is the perm do both and perm do the plan through a lens of failed IR. Now Grove isolates drone strikes, a product of IR, but drone strikes are good. Horror, it's all 12. It is important not to overstate the risk of drug instability states distinguished between the shooting gentleman and unmanned system. Even if there is an accident, is likely to require a Pakistan shot down Indian drone, Indian non-escalate countries, all opponents value drones differently using just for surveillance. QC blind drones could give us try to speed in real time and reassure cities and playing attacks. Drones could increase surprise attack. Drones may be useful to turn this mechanism to reinforce it. Similarly, the CS unmanned system could provide confidence building measures that would make escalation less likely. Now, all that obviously can't solve an abstract theory that can't hold any water in the real world. If we told other countries that we were just going to reject IR, they would laugh in our face and take over the world. Obviously, this is just a theory in a debate round that doesn't hold any water when you analyze empirics and other countries' behaviors.
Okay. Are you good?
Yeah.
So the first of the case page, you say that it puts U.S., China, and Taiwan to the negotiating table.
Yeah.
What are they negotiating over? How does this forum work?
Well, so our app doesn't, sort of take a stance on what that looks like, but Firescene says that the only the only sort of path for that diplomacy to happen is through the plan. Now, what that looks like,
wait. You said that that's the only reason why you're able to obviate and solve all these alt causes that we presented. My question is, how does it resolve things like tensions and disputes over military removal?
It establishes a framework for notice with any, i.e. a framework to resolve the conflict, resolve those alt causes, because it brings all those countries to the negotiating table over what the face of Taiwan
What is that framework?
What
is that framework?
It would. I mean, how do countries talk about border disputes and stuff? That's probably what it would look like. It would mean all countries know each other's
talking about border disputes.
All countries would know each other's motives. i.e. no miscalculation. All causes are thrown out of the water. Because it's the only possible metric to resolve.
This Petrova card is in the context of NGOs being good for the global South. Why is that the AF?
Which card?
Petrova.
Oh. Yeah, well, it's just saying that you shouldn't just blanket reject state action, and the
It's about NGOs, so why is that commensurate with, or why is that incommensurate with rejecting?
It's just an example of how violence can be resolved with state action in IR theory. It doesn't have to necessarily be.
And also, it's about NGOs, so what does that have to do with IR? Why is it a reason? Why is this the defense of IR?
It just talks about military practice and how those are able to resolve, i.e. the international relations and how those work to be able to resolve conflicts.
The Mandelbaum evidence above it, did Trump just killed someone or killed a general in Iraq, why does that mean? Or I guess what is a warrant behind the U.S. not intervening anymore in foreign relations?
Well, that was already an ongoing conflict. This just says that they won't sort of expand further. It talks about how it's not
so the
popular,
U.S. can still
i.e. when
continue
everyone
bombing
came
people,
out and
but
said,
that's
"Trump,
not
you're
more intervention.
Not a smart what?
So the U.S. can continue bombing people, but that's somehow not quote unquote more intervention because it's a continuation of things. Is that your description for this evidence?
Right. No more intervention
Okay.
can happen. Plus, post-Trump, that won't happen anymore because everyone said he was not smart for doing that.
Okay. Your definition of defensive realism keeps seeming to shift. So my question, and just could you find a definition for defensive realism that you'll defend for the rest of the debate?
Okay, I will defend that China is defensive realist in the context of not Taiwan, i.e. they respond.
What? So China is defensive realist for everything else except Taiwan.
We have evidence. Our more evidence is surprisingly amazing on the question of how China views Taiwan through a different lens that they view an area such as Nepal or Pakistan. Nepal or Pakistan.
Okay, so then why does defensive realism explain the rest of Chinese behavior?
What?
Why does defensive realism explain the rest of
empirics. That's our Jalil evidence. And also, I guess, our Schifrinson evidence about how they're decreasing their military budget and they haven't increased it in the past. So, I mean, again, empirics are pretty important in how you evaluate IR.
Yeah. Amen. This card just says NGOs have started to critique the current driving school, and they have not managed to pose a radical challenge to military practices. So they said that this thing says that one, NGOs have failed towards challenging military practices. And second, it says that it's increased the presence of humanitarian relief or something. But that doesn't mean that has nothing to do with IR. It says that
Stop for 5 minutes. Let me set up the cards. The cards are set. And it's just the K. Cool. Anyone not good?
Okay, good.
Okay.
The Western commitment to a world run by causal agents of states and norms is collapsing under the weight of existence. This process of decay is neither tragedy nor farce, but the horror of the age we live in. Extend the ecology of war. Their analysis can actively contribute to the linear scripting of war as a rupture in the banality of daily life. This presumes an exteriority of war, when in fact the war that has begun has never ended. When it sees complicit in the gender scripting of warfare, of the ecology of warfare into the fabric of relations, which acclimate subjects into the process of colonialism, settlement, capitalism, racism, and misogyny. They're not corollaries of war, but our war. That's the evidence independently that turns case warfare is clandestine networks of shadowy operations, current public scrutiny, entirely contingent arms and resolution is red herring. The way part parcel of ships toward table warfare. Nila, if they're dealing with warfare, down information kills the important accountability, intelligence, division rates on salary sharpening with military power, military develop, campus warfare, don't understand for spending will help to regime of techno target strikes myself and deterrent strikes it's warfare and have wolf and twitches period, but it's getting to the social fabric of life when you war does not mean seizing hotels but managing waste line by line. The firm to make proper growth there now. Our recommendation is that you should evaluate the 1AC and the 1NC as research practices and not yet advocacy under observation. The 1AC is a scholastic research project that implicates our political subjectivity. Firm teams can garner offense from that's fair and predictable. ASA point is apt choice. They get to be IR theory, good contingent, war simulation, good, etc. What the 1AC still provides offense and defense, but as a research project which proves apt choice solves their offense. B point is reciprocity plan focused debate encourages alternatives that we go power structures about our interpretation forces real world debate about social political models and research practices. They say we need to understand diplomacy. Our interpretation is mutually exclusive with that and the fairness arguments we're interested above. There's a neoliberalization this to their model of extended growth evidence. Their academia is increasingly infiltrated with the neoliberal drive to produce and monetize scholarship. Their demand for policy relevance has two impacts. A point is legalistic voyeurism. Nobody here believes that they will solve a single problem. They've isolated in the context of state policy, but they posture empathetic activism. But the entire enterprise of policy debate is motivated by bad faith and guilt. Persuade nerds to vote after. You should earnestly be able to explain how voting ethics and academic plan more likely be point is academic militarization. The endless debate to produce more policy solutions and both plans and policy solutions to cultivate subjects joining the left of motion endlessly following the demands of the American war machine to generate scholarship that promises to offer new political insights into the European which destroys the intersubjective agency. Our model debate solves affective constructions and meaning-making are the only avenue to read warfare and militaristic research. Growth the wall. Body portion we take rather than rationalization. But you cosmet physically go clarification before the message solution before the formulation million those effective the effective which is the thing by making a meaning process the meaning making work making intention only making somebody down level of signification which results satisfaction and with those signification final comes down unknown lost active mood technological regulations of acceleration happens to be at the manner of expression. We must make vivid preparation for warfare and get lost in political realist discussions. They say utopian fiat is bad. We're not utopian fiat. Hostage checks and you're utopian because you think the plan's going to happen. That was the framework debate. They say util is good. I'll redo that debate here. Reject their ethical predisposition toward utilitarianism. Extend the growth evidence. First is universalism. Their framing of collective we to be saved is shaped by a history of colonization and targeted bodies marked by a race that ensures a fundamentally unequal distribution of survivors and sacrifices. Second is temporality. The ongoing balance of the present is always prioritized, is always ignored for a future mythic intervention. You should arbitrarily shift your concerns in favor of everyday balance under the Eurocene. Third is sequencing only. We have comparative evidence about how risk assessment shape consequential limits. Not that we throw out consequences, but that a shift in scale is necessary to understand how utilitarianism trust of global integration is a condition of possibility for the economic and military cartography. This homogeneous planetary user space facilitates conquest, fossil fuel extraction, settlement, voting affirmative absent, a reframing of the way we understand risk ensures serial policy failure. They say don't let us weigh impacts that are don't let us say that their impacts are fake. We didn't say their impacts were fake on the critique. They say high magnitude, low probability. First, the Bosch evidence. I'll enter here. Their demand for survival of future generations is a guise for settler solidarity and triggers anti-career solly. Extermination nerves of settler and historic extinction, specification opportunity in quantum massive vulnerability, drag extinction nerves, precular change extinction nerves, biological reproduction, refi, masculine, feminine roles, with the real effect that shapes literature emerging from white colonial settings. Second is that we didn't make a K of low probability, so this is hyper unresponsive. And third is that we've impact turned their invocation of longevity in future generations, which is what this Dolly evidence is in the context of they say war is uniquely bad to marginalized populations. This is exactly what the ecology of war Linkhardt's impact term though. It proves how they always view war as a cataclysmic rupture in daily life and always causing those alternative forms of violence, but never and always view those alternative forms of violence as corollaries of war, but never as war in and of themselves, which means they have proven the link argument to the ecology of war. Like they say realism is true, this proves our link argument, and they also don't get to say this after saying realism is inadequate to understand Chinese behavior because realism is a template about how all countries operate in international relations. They don't just get to make random exceptions for that. They say the alternative doesn't change diplomatic conversation. That's just not what the alternative is about. Argument is about reorienting how we approach international relations in the context of academic
practices in the context of debate, which means that we agree from the question. Their questions of how does the alternative engage with diplomacy doesn't really make sense. They say no endless warfare. I'll answer here. This evidence is literally a relevant argument. Is that it is an impact to the way that their author understands war. Gray says these wars when states fight each other, they can say liberalism has resulted in the decline of that, but arguments that this is a bad template for understanding warfare. 500 years of evidence prove that the ecology of war is now an assemblage, which proves how their argument is only true if you don't understand settlerism, racism, and misogyny as war. Their scholarship is informed by a mentality of those things, which means that them reading this evidence proves a link argument to our link argument. The behavior modification link goes untouched to the 2AC. Their attempt to alter Chinese behavior, fear, and concern is a tool for the expansion of cybernetic regimes of control that serve to secure imperial power. This is rooted in behavior modification and cybernetic resilience building that began with the environment pacification of the world market, but now spreads into military doctrine broadly as American policymakers are on the altercation of Chinese behavior. That's the direct for them. The impact of cybernetic regimes of control. Behavior modification is part and parcel of mutating front of American cyber weaponry, counterinsurgency operations, domestic surveillance, digital strikes, and sabotage that culminates in violent stability and managerial practices in the Middle East, Africa, and South America. There can be understanding the IR stems from a command and control paradigm developed at the end of the Second World War to predict and modulate global behavior that spearheads the entry of violent imperial computer and network technologies. It also turns the case behavior modification is underwritten by the U.S.'s global offensive capabilities, cyber capabilities, which China perceives as undermining cooperation and proliferating U.S. warfighting, which is proven by the Pentagon's reports of an offensive strategy to dictate engagement with the PRC through Western exhortation of East Asia in conjunction with private sector like Google. The plan guarantees freak out because China is paranoid about losing its ideological power populations to use digital soft power. Only the alternative can break the cycle of digital paranoia, because even if China doesn't lash out, patriotic hackers will, which turns their war arguments. The second link is the defensive realism link. The pyramids of the Eurasian is the Chinese imperialism link. The pyramids of the Eurasian have exceeded the geographic boundaries of the American, now rely on their sustenance through the rising power of China imperialism. No longer has metastasized into a force that encompasses the global geopolitics of where China is not an alternative to the Eurasian, but replicates its phenotypic characteristics of America. That's proven by their defensive realism arguments. Our grove evidence says that their claims that China merely acts in response to the U.S. nationalizes Chinese genocide. Here's a couple of examples from their evidence that prove the link. One, their sureness and evidence says, quote, Chinese land reclamation have only involved territories previously claimed by the Chinese government, unquote. Second, the Jalil evidence says, quote, China has tried to force friendly relations with its neighbors, unquote. Third, their sureness evidence also says, quote, military preeminence is not required to make other states run scared, unquote, which ignores the needless militarization of Uyghur communities by Chinese folks. That is not in response to the U.S., but an act of Chinese settler colonization that they sanitize China of, which is a thesis claim that they just haven't answered. That's the grove evidence that has two impacts. First is Chinese imperialism. Chinese sovereign existence is predicated on the existence of indigenous bodies like Uyghurs that become targets of Chinese settlement and genocide, which they nationalize, which is above. Second is territorial dispute, nationalizing Chinese territorial integrity and the drive that China has to expand the world, even independent of the U.S., even if the 1AC resolves a contingent instance of conflict. Another conflict that draws from the U.S. will inevitably arise. The ECS, the SCS, maritime disputes with Indonesia, the Philippines, and Malaysia all potentially turn the case. They say no, they say we can challenge specific violences with state action. This card literally says nothing. It's about NGOs and challenging the military. Their evidence just says that NGOs have failed and that this has increased humanitarian relief, which doesn't really prove anything. They say no prior questions because empirics is good. We have never said empirics are irrelevant, but the K framework argument about prove that research practices and rhetoric do matter. We've never said empirics are irrelevant, so I don't know why Crostics, their grandstanding on empirics are good. They say we can't solve proximate violence. They say they can solve proximate violence. We didn't make a root cause argument, but we have made turns case argument, which obviously implicates case solvency. They say liberalism is good. No, it's not. Metropolitan seeking liberalism is deeper than anyone imagine. Materialism, business, and part of value and value of management. Liberalism, one furniture critique of itself, and American liberalism tries to prove the individual matter of plantation of household resources will always look to prefer democracy, but redrawing births against those foreign and slavery, colonization, fragility, to restore by way, property values, property movements of campaigns minimum wage, levels of black measure, the large prison strike in the U.S. during our protests against the problem of lack of class politics, classification that does not see neoliberalism section. Second, even if they win this argument, it doesn't really respond to the thesis of our criticism or any of our link arguments. They say the AF is true. We never said they weren't true. We didn't read a securitization case, but impact from their research practice and how their rhetoric is mobilized on the case debate. The permutation do both. The second permutation is still permutation do both, but I'll enter both of them here. One is a framework question. The affirmative has defended scholarship. This includes epistemic foundations on which the 1AC is built. Second, the permutation is certain project, which is voting issue creates a moving target, which internally turns our clash arguments on this framework debate and says justifies sexist and racist directed. The permutation has to either include their public representations or separate to make sense. Third, for rejection is a slight gesture towards a small crime generian. Next, like the both files gesture the idea from the essentially contest with the don't get down to because you will not believe with no content here for no contesting the charge. The charge higher part gets off easy. Mark the card at easy.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really confused. How is saying that China is defensive realist sanitizing Uyghur?
Sure, because all of your evidence says that China operates in response to the U.S. in the context of territorial expansion.
In
argument is that
of IR, why does
no, that's actually not true. I can actually reread the quotes from your evidence. The sureness evidence says that Chinese land reclamation have only involved territories previously claimed by the Chinese government. Uyghur territory was not claimed by the Chinese government. It was an act of colonization of territory that did not belong to China. The Jalil evidence says China has tried to forge friendly relations with its neighbors. That sanitizes the violent relationship that China has in the settler colonization of Uyghurs. The Sherman evidence also says military preeminence is not required to make other states run scared. Our argument is that China irrationally overcomes and imposes settler
I
colonies.
would just like to say a couple of things. First, the Uyghur land was actually previously claimed by China.
What is what is the alternative view of IR?
So we the alternative will be extended to the 1 hour, but our argument is that we should refuse the frame to always engineer a new polis, to always prefigure how countries will operate through the lens of the nation states. Through the lens of the nation state. Argument is that we should refuse that process, and Grove says that process of refusal and pessimism creates that process of refusal and pessimism creates the potential for forms of collectivity outside of imperial dominance at the level of research, care, and collectivity.
Cool. What do countries like China think about that? Like,
okay, so that literally makes no sense for you to ask that in the context of the alternative. We have said that debate is a research project. Even if when you get to weigh that plan, asking those types of questions doesn't really make sense because argument is about reorienting how research practices operate.
Okay,
so
why is it good to reorient research practices to things that don't apply to the real world?
They do apply to the real world, but your
that's
question
my
of
question,
what will
right?
Chinese and Russian policymakers do doesn't really make sense in the context of our argument about reorienting research about
sure.
those
Let's say
things.
that we reorient our research and we come up with some super cool way to view IR. How does what's the next step? What does that look like?
That we've said there, we do not know what the next step is. Grove says that even if for those who do not know what the way is, Grove has this quote where he's just like, we can't know what the way forward is except that it cannot be this. That's our argument. That leap of faith, that refusal to offer an engineering of a polis is what creates the moment for potential to collectivity.
Like, if you have no idea what it looks like, who's to say that it's not going to be like a worse form of IR? Like, how can you know that this is going to be some like...
That's the value of pessimism, in dwelling in that impossibility, which generates the moments of collectivity and care that are the only ethical response to the violence of the nation state and imperialism.
Okay. What's the alternative to Utah? You said you were going to extend one.
We need to prioritize ongoing imperial violence. All of our temporality arguments say that ongoing imperial violence is always ignored in favor of immediate future intervention. Our arguments about collectivity say that the specificities of ongoing imperial violence are always foregone in favor of a collective we to be saved under utilitarianism. Like, it's pretty clear. We have an alternative framework to utilitarianism. It's ongoing imperial violence that are contextualized by our linked arguments.
Alright, there's 10 seconds. That's fine.
Okay. It's the K, the drone stuff, the alternative, and then the advantage.
Can I get that again?
Yeah, so the K, so it'll start with the drones card on the bottom, the alternative, and then the case.
Yeah. Are there cards?
They've been sent.
Okay.
It's just this.
Hold on, start real quick. I just need you to say something after the drones and alternative thing. I'll just tell you what that is. That's 2 seconds.
Okay. We use 2 seconds, so.
428.
No, 428. They were 458.
Alright, is anyone not ready? Okay.
The AC drone goes, one is the evidence in context of surveillance drones. Grove says that drones with offensive capabilities and signature capabilities are bad. Second, surveillance informs violence. Numerous examples, most recently killing the Iranian generals. It proves that drones are able to incite war. Their evidence is effective at preventing escalation, but not that they don't cause violence. Independently, drones cause maritime instability, and their data is huge. China and also in the United States, with drones kills thousands of people, stability and variable control for growing outside Afghanistan, in Iraq, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, GBS BF. This is a conservative estimate who qualifies concepts with beauty. People that strike telling them to serving direct effective communities, members, those supported by groups of the use of strong, no independent oversight or accountability. The alternative debate, I'll do it here. Vote negative for failed IR as an affirmation of negative thinking. The affirmative affirmation of negativity is a grounds for intellectual freedom. The refusal to offer policy proposals is precisely the virtue of the alternative. Anything less than an affirmation of absolute pessimism is a disservice for the graves dug under the Eurocene. Voting negative refuses to offer to theorize under and around the Eurocene, but through the alternative disappointment of deliverance generates a collective refusal to accept a cruelly optimistic promise to end the violence of the Eurocene. That's a Grove evidence. This means that you should refuse policy relevance when assessing the 1AC and alternative. This post-round encounter that rejects strive for useful scholarship, but resounding no that the 1AC is a prerequisite for dismantling imperial subjectivity that is latent in policy-making paradigms. Even if you have no ability to try the alternative, you should still vote negative. Adopting pessimism includes those who have no certainty about the way forward to say that that cannot be this, as a quote from her own piece of evidence.
They say we can't convince other countries. That was cross-legs. The bottom of the 2AC's debate is just about what happens in this room.
They say we
That's
can't,
our argument.
They say we can't convince other countries, but the top of the 2NC is that debate is just about this room, which is our argument of the framework.
Last thing, the argument about no endless interventions, one, disproven by the Neve evidence, two, the example that Daniel gave of the Iranian.
The endless intervention stuff is disproven by Neve and disproven by the recent killing of the Iran general. That proves that ongoing genocide is still a thing. That case.
extend the Chinese area studies think that when I see representation is purely self-referential, their understanding of China is based in contingent codes of meaning that are grounded in Western epistemological coordinates that seek to create an objective image of China as deep and surrealist or not in the context of Taiwan, which is not only impossible but also based in Western imposition of meaning. Winning the thesis level argument constitutes an independent epistemology, it is said, and is sufficient reason to break the S.C. Chow evidence. They say it's only about Taiwan, but one, you still describe it in other instances. Second, your idea that China has sacred commitments is still mediated through Western ideas of knowledge making, which are still area studies that are then exported back on to create military warfare. The impact of silent war against racialized subjects, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki constitute shift in the nature of modern religion debate as a site of academic area studies that target and eliminate racialized threats to the nation state. Independently also turns the attempt to render Chinese behavior perfectly knowable through academic area studies makes Chinese revision inevitable because the defensive realist paradigm only understands China through territorial aggressions and hostility that ruins the possibility for meaningful progress because of all the ulterior motives in the diplomatic process that they say that they have created. They all cause debate. There is no internal link between plans and affirmation from the third community can solve miscalculation. Their evidence is specific and not reverse causal. The bright light, the closest it gets to it, is that Beijing loses confidence in the possibility of peaceful reconciliation from multiple all causes. If you put any all causes, then you vote negative presumptive. The app cannot start forwards to the troop deployments that were just not answered. Troop enabled deployments prove that at least 29,000 in South Korea and 50,000 in Japan, as well as a 7th Fleet movement around the Korean Peninsula, are sufficient to trigger Chinese military aggression. It matters more than arms sales because military presence are how arms are actually used. They say diplomatic form, but it can't solve the cross-ex. Proves it's an unspecified process. Obviously, the U.S. will have its own regional interests, and overall causes prove that the platform itself will be ineffective because there's competing interests within the region. Next is the secret meetings argument. This is proof that forums all between the U.S. and Taiwan had secret meetings that were intentionally linked to piss off China. That proves that there are ulterior motives. Whenever that U.S., China, and Taiwan will go into the meetings, those will never reach actual solve miscalculation because there will always be different motives that China doesn't know about, which is what miscalculation is. Independently, the U.S. overmatch strategy ensures that U.S. aggression and miscalculation is inevitable. Claire, in 19 military officers or official movie in Washington, China, principal adversary, China, power to determine to prevent any cost of every branch of government expecting mobilize capability to restrain power to every party of ministry of the U.S. and the United States on a daily basis. The trade war argument, the only argument that the trade war is over, but it's obviously not because even though the initial leveling of tariffs is over, China still has those tariffs on the U.S. and the U.S. is still pressuring them, and those tariffs aren't lifted, which means that trade war is not over. Independently, Trump's escalation of the trade war has damaged U.S. and China relations beyond repair. CNE's reach was the BRA off the road, and Trump uses the quote Republican fears of China rise, which is the biggest cause and only cares about growth. They say it can be ended, but it can't. This is in total signaling deal with China. Trump says he heard away the after use election like with political risk for Trump. Even people in Washington, she's trying to those 9 terms to play Trump's own party. Rubio is as well as Collins says that she appears to new evil empire. The Trump of American farmers are independent, only making himself more hospitable, which is trying to be able to use China agreement is a little of Trump's seems to be fighting along multi-front world. If you're embracing the use of common sense, you also see how in those from China during the election chances. They say he only cares about the Taiwan, but it's false, and he cares about the economy more than he does Taiwan. First is infrastructure development. He's invested trillions in infrastructure development using tax from Chinese civilians because demographic swaps are rising, so he needs to have to return to full strength in order to pursue, which means that he cares about the economy more because that's what he's taking his reputation off. Second is recency. Taiwan conflict has been long-standing, but recent Chinese modernizations have increased the role of economy in China. Our evidence post-states and proves that the economy is essential to growth in Taiwan, which means that he only cares about that independently. He states reputation on it, doesn't want to return to national community. Buckley in March 19 all of damage joints that products are undoubtedly retreated sharply, and China's chief trade representative who tried backing down on communist orders only to revenge safe center of the Chinese economy, also in the Chinese Republic very humbly. That bring back harmful memories of national humiliation. Anything else?
We have 720. prep 4 minutes. I'm seeing out the cards right now. The cards have been sent. The order is going to be the case page, then K.
Case K.
Yes.
It's just this. Okay.
Yeah, just those 3 cards.
Alright.
1 second, I'm flanked up.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Good. Absolute plan and diplomatic solution. The U.S. and China war is going to go nuclear. There are 3 scenarios that go completely conceded. The first is that China invades South Greece and weighing evidence. Second is that paying evidence that the U.S. and China will miscalculate. And the third was our conf evidence about how Taiwan is going to first strike China. I would do the line by line here. They say objectifying and imagining China is inherently bad, and how it is that U.S. studies know or more evidence is actually really good. It cites 28 Chinese officials and really qualified people from Chinese universities, proving that we are not just U.S. studies, so this does not actually apply to the affirmative. They should have done research. They say, turns the F. That was the answer to above, where we are not just U.S. studies. Additionally, even if we try and know everything, that does not mean that what we know is untrue. They must first disprove our argument about how defensive realism is or they must disprove our sacred commitments argument with the more evidence before they are actually able to say that they're able to turn the F. The all causes debate, the truth arguments, our coke and fire scene, our coke evidence at the very, or our fire scene evidence at the very bottom specifically says that if the U.S. gives a face-saving way of China to back off, then that is going to fundamentally be able to solve. Even if we have troops in the area, the U.S. is able to still funnel a diplomatic solution that's necessary and able to be able to resolve any types of troops. Additionally, the plan is still a good thing. That answers literally everything else. As,
trade war and relations don't matter. Nothing to do with
Yeah,
China.
trade war and
Anyways,
relations don't matter
mathematical
because
process.
our arguments about not about relations. The critique. First on the framework, our argument is that you must weigh the F versus the alternative. It's the best for debate as is able to ensure that we are able to learn about the third communique, which is a not good and goes completely unanswered. They completely dropped that they learned about the affirmative is inherent the good thing that their their model reduces. If debate is only in academic space, then what should be prioritized is education level. Second is key for fairness. If they make sure that if they ensure that our F does literally nothing and we do not get away our impacts, then it is impossible to be affirmative, as they can always find just one thing about the affirmative to fundamentally critique. No, we do not link to their neoliberalism dissent. Their neoliberalism dissent is just that education can result in the production of militarization, not that our form of debate is there's no reason our form of debate is fundamentally going to cause militarized research to be produced. It's inevitably going to be produced. Additionally, I'll go on to the link debate. Or utility, sorry, actually, yeah. Or realism first. Realism is true. States are the only relevant actors who compete for power. Moral considerations are quite secondary. Even if humankind becomes morally enhanced, they're not going to become less egotistical and power-seeking. That's our archo evidence. Their impact. All answer interventionism here. The impact debate. Their totalizing theory of violence being inevitable and strong. Numerous wars prove that the world's getting better, and this intervention doesn't hold true. Leaders are rational. If they win, that they are not, they need to describe why elections and don't shift the power dynamics. Select a better read their answers. All the reasons why Trump is bad right now. B, wars are always for sovereignty and security. For example, the F is a good idea because it's stopping war is good. C, there isn't enough money for D, nations building is failing popular, especially true. 2020 is coming and Trump campaign now getting out of wars. And E, leaders are constrained. And F, securitization and leads to better containment, not expansion. That's our grace and malbold evidence. The util debate. Magnitude should be first in the irreversible nature of our impacts on the global scale eliminates Earth's futurity. Appeals that we are low risk we are low risk lose to math because we are introducing the magnitude of infinity into the risk equation means that we always outweigh preferred util and consequentialism. They are only the ethical rubric to maximize the number of life states. Green 10. This determined scientists tell me this world judgment not rational because of this is unlikely and likely there's any coherent theory that can accompany for institution. Deontology said that it's not about taking human seriously, but that concept deontology is the values of love or not deontological consequences by have a respect for a person by treating people moral object by kind of every number of person will be in the principles give equal weight to every institution. If you ask what is wrong with the push, I wanted to say $5 would be ontological richer about the attempts to explain the cognitive terms where we feel or there seems to be something deeply right because we are giving violence to emotion, but don't really explain the philosophical question. If I accidentally drop a turn case argument, you should give the two-way or leeway, especially when they just funnel those arguments out. Additionally, all reasons why intervention is not inevitable answers all those arguments. The Dali evidence about util being bad is talking about extinction. We don't claim an extinction war, so that doesn't inherently apply. They say war is bad and that we created a dichotomy. No, we fundamentally don't.
Say alternative is bad.
Okay, alternative is bad. You cannot just abstractly theorize about something without knowing how it actually functions.
Pessimism is bad because it means...
Oh yeah, the Uyghur argument, pessimism is inherently worse as it says that we can't really do anything to solve that other than just look into the unknown, which is functionally bad. The permutation is able to resolve everything is all the things that they say are bad are happening in the status quo, which means that either the all can overcome all the links or the all can't overcome.
Or 28.
How much you love?
4 minutes.
Case 7. Case 7.
Case first.
Yeah. Anyone not good? They can't just blow by all their alternative costs attention. The solvency mechanism, the one I see the one here was the diplomatic forum that the plan creates tensions, creates between the US, China, and Taiwan trade wars and secret meetings are dropped alternative costs to the prevention of successful diplomacy, which disproves the solvency of the absolute negative presumption versus secret meetings. High level use in Taiwan and defense officials have connected secret meetings over military movements that were intentionally linked to piss off China. That proves that there were ulterior motives at the negotiating table, which maintains strategic ambiguity, which is the internal link to trade to war and miscalculation. Second is trade war. She cares about the economy more than arms sales because he's used trillions of taxpayer money to fund it, which is a continued alternative argument. The one hour he's saying his reputation on independent of Taiwan's unification that came before it, leading to ongoing trade war decks all future negotiations, including the military ones. Critique. This is your RFT. I vote negative because guess given that Westwood is ahead on the drop to behavior modification link argument and conceded turns to case arguments. Even if GBS wins, I think it's way the plan the two case arguments, turns case arguments, and impact framing arguments mitigate the such that I prefer all fails IR as an epistemological friend that refuses to debate drive towards policy proposals, which operates as an injunction in imperial subjectivity to produce the debates research practices. We are not going for the defensive realism link, but they have no reason. It's an offensive reason to adapt, especially when the one it was double turn between realism and good bad, which was crossing six in the ecology of war link. It was dropped the evidence and construction of the one views war as an interruption of the banality of daily life, which is problematic for two reasons. First, it actualizes settlement capitalism to misogyny, constructing war as a catalyst rupture in daily life, denies that wars endemic to the Eurasian order occurs on a daily basis through laceration, colonization, and rape. That's growth evidence. Second is chaotic warfare turns the warfare is no longer about the prevention of conflict, but the reduction of risk. The one narrative of risk management and conflict resolution causes the shift to U.S. special ops drones and satellites to uphold imperial violence in each stage of the sin, extend the 20 new evidence, and always because it's a more devious and subversive form of violence that avoids public scrutiny. The framework make proper go there now. Our recommendation is that they do not automatically weigh the plan, but the 1AC is a research practice that solves fairness and predictability. First is after choice they chose 1AC, so they should be held to every word of it, which solves the predictability argument. Second is reciprocity, fiat-based model of debate, encourage negative teams to run to alternatives like decolonization or abolition, which undermine clash by fiat and global power structures out of existence. They say we need to learn about the dark community. This is not fucking germane to Wayne the F. I know you want to give them the plan, but the one error is just like, what are you even saying? The fairness arguments were answered above, and we have substantial defense to them. The disadvantage I'll extend it here. We've impact turn plan focus debate. Grove says it's an act of neoliberalization that you should reject. Ace of point is legalistic warriors, and nobody here believes that they will solve a single problem isolated in the context of state policy, but they posture empathetic activism and towards guiltless wishing, which is why all of us act as if fiat is real, even though we supposedly know it's illusory. That makes voting YAF makes the enactment of the plan less likely by feeding our unconscious of ourselves as benign subjects under the Eurasian beast. The point is active militarization. The Eurasian has infiltrated academia, demanding that we produce more policy solutions to adapt to the Eurasian, which destroys, with their model of debate reaffirms, this destroys intersubjective agency, which outweighs because it's a more proximate cause of violence, which was dropped. Research practices are the only impact to debate. They continue to growth evidence, which says active affective constructions and meaning making within research paradigms congeal into new habits and affirmations, altering our very bane chemistry vis-a-vis the project of research. They say we can pick anything to critique. You chose the Fs to defend the entirety of it. They say militarization of research is inevitable. It's not failed. IR disrupts that process and we've impact and plan debate, so which our information solves. The 1 year spends 4 words answering 50 words, so you should obviously lean negative. Extend the behavior modification link. Their attempt to alter Chinese behavior, fear, and concern is a form of cybernetic regimes of control that serve to secure imperial power that's dire. Woodford evidence impact to cybernetic regimes of control that secures imperial power that spearheads the entry of mutating front of American cyber weaponry, counterinsurgency operations, domestic surveillance, and digital strikes, and sabotage that creates violent instability proven by the Middle East, Africa, and South America, and the conceded 1 hour card on why drone strikes were bad. Second, it turns the behavior modification is perceived by China as undermining cooperation, upgrading U.S. war fighting, proven by the conceded offsets example that causes Chinese and patriotic China and patriotic hackers to lash out, which makes cyber war and escalation inevitable, which is a continued turns case argument. They say the world is getting better. Literally none of this shit is responsive. We don't have to win. The world is getting fucking worse because we have links to the app, but I'll answer it anyway. They say that we are rational, and this is proven by the one argument about Trump lash out and elections put Trump in place, so their argument of elections checking don't make sense. They say the app stops war. We have link arguments to the app. They say not enough money, disproven by the chaotic warfare argument, which proves we can sustain violence abroad through shadow operations and not large-scale militaries. And they also just don't have evidence on this question. They say magnitude comes first. We've impact turns their calls for reversibility. The idea of saving future generations justifies killing nonsense bodies that are seen to complicate the reversibility of lives, which means we have a conceded impact turn to irreversibility. That's the Dolly evidence. It's not only about extinction that util to be a proper weak impact turn that util extinction first arguments extend the growth evidence. It presumes the best version of all their offense. First is universalism. Their prioritization of a universalized we that should be naturally be valued equally as a tool of colonization that attempts to nationalize a role of race, which will forever ensure an unequal distribution of survivors and sacrifices. Second is temporality. Their impact calculus is based on the mythology of future intervention, from Christianity to Enlightenment, from white political imaginaries always are over-focused on future mythic intervention over ongoing imperial violence, and you have an obligation to overcorrect for current tendencies, which was a dropped argument. The consequentialism good argument was new and the one answer crossed off your flow, but the evidence conflates utilitarianism and consequentialism. We agree we need to evaluate consequences, but it's about which consequences we evaluate. We think we should prioritize ongoing imperial violence. They say pessimism. They say give the two-hour leeway on terms of case arguments. No, you fucking don't. You should learn how to do line by line and answer or actual link arguments, because they literally dropped 2 whole link arguments and I'm only going for one. They say pessimism is bad. They printed debate does not solve policy making, which means that they are the real pessimists. And second is that pessimism is not doing nothing, but is a form of politics that resists violence at the level of research, which is problematic because they have continued to grove evidence that says research implicates our political subjectivity. The permutation, I don't think there was one in the one era, but also preempted here. The permutation is severance. Every aspect of code and example we've identified through our link arguments prove that they would have to sever those for the permutation to be coherent. That's a voting issue, creates a moving target. That makes critical education impossible. Second, they do not have a permutation shields a link argument, so every link is still a destruction of the permutation. Conceded turns the case arguments. Like, literally the all causes on case were definitely dropped. We're massively ahead on the impact framing debate, and we're winning that they uphold imperial balance through cybernetic resilience building, which aren't reliant on large-scale interventions.
You start getting cards, like send out like a doc.
Yeah. Ben, do you want them by 2 in C and 2 in R, like by speech?
Yeah, I mean, really just structured based on like what argument they're on, like util, what link,
Gotcha.
stuff like that.
Okay, Case K.
Understand.
Alright, is anyone not ready? Trump is doling down the deterrence via arms deals with Taiwan that precludes peace as a possibility over the Taiwanese Strait. Anything short of reduction of arms deals in accordance with third joint communique causes invasion. That results in U.S. drawing in, escalates to global nuclear war. That definitely outweighs on magnitude. They said that they're ahead on the util debate, which I'll get to in a second. They're definitely not now. Now the only way to resolve that is through the third communique. It sets up a three-policy architecture of the TRA, the six assurances, and the third communique. That's solid because it brings all three countries to the negotiating table. This is not something that they've answered at all. They just said, well, obviously that won't work, and listed a bunch of alt causes, but haven't talked about how those alt causes interplay with the diplomatic process. Sure, Taiwan can have some secret meetings, but once they realize that when they get to the diplomatic table that there are other possibilities to resolve it, then they can definitely solve. Fire scene undergoes years of consultation. You can't just you can't just brush that off because they have a couple of cards that talk about the trade war. Obviously, that's nowhere near the credibility of the fire scene. It says it creates a different tonality, which obviously answers any alt cause it can have. It says China would undergo similar force reductions. I don't understand why Xi caring more about the economy means that he can't resolve a Taiwan conflict, even if he's pissed off at the U.S. That does not apply. And the Taiwanese secret meetings also don't matter again because it's all brought to light when they have the diplomatic process. Fire scene is really good undergoes years of consultation that they have not grappled with. There are no alt causes, and to the extent that there are, we're able to resolve them via the diplomatic process of the plan. They have not answered at all. Okay. Framework is you should get to weigh the impacts of the half versus the K. They didn't answer any of our fairness, so all of their education stuff can be thrown out of the window because where is education without clash or fairness? Without fairness, there's no clash. Means that we can't get any of it. We can't understand any of the research because we're not incentivized to do any of it in depth because we can always just move whatever the 1AC said. And so even if it's really cool to look at 5 words of the 1AC and 5 words of the 1AC and scream about them in the blog, that doesn't actually generate any education when you're not incentivized to do research because that's always going to happen, which means that you should definitely weigh the F now. Sure, you can justify our research, but the problem is our justifications of our research is that it undergoes years of consultation and also is based off empirics. Their justification for rejecting is they don't like it. That is not at all the same thing. They say that it reifies violence, but they say that our research reifies violence, but they haven't actually proven an impact other than imperial violence, which our impacts definitely outweigh that. But it doesn't reify any of that violence again because it undergoes all of the years of consultation and is based off of empirical evidence. Now I'll do the utility here. It was definitely not new. It's not about just consequential. It's about utility more broadly. It's most real. Green talks about how it's most real world and is the only equalizing metric to evaluate impacts. That wasn't new. I said utility is the only moral equalizer. They neglected to answer that, which means that the only ethical way to evaluate conflicts is putting everyone on an equal standing point in the beginning. If everyone is dead, and there's no value to evaluate that. Now reread Daly. It's definitely about extinction, which means that even because it's about coming together. Unifying is one to prevent extinction, which is bad, but though we don't do that. We prevent one conflict in Taiwan and China that causes nuclear war. We never said that escalates to extinction, which is what Daly is criticizing. He's not criticizing nuclear war. Now, all of the reasons util is bad can be answered by util turns this because if we were to bomb a bunch of places and go to war, the people that would be most affected aren't the rich people. It would be the marginalized populations. All of their racism and colonialism are reified once a war starts. So even if you think that you should prefer colonial violence, you must prefer util first because wars on the magnitude of ours are only serve to reify all of the things that they have critiqued. Now we don't ignore marginalized populations at all. There's no reason that China, U.S., and Taiwan can talk about preventing war while also the U.S. saying that the things like Chinese marginalization of the Uyghurs is a bad thing. Now the link debate, they just went for their Chinese behavior monetization link, but reread the card. It doesn't articulate a single impact. We don't modify Chinese behavior. I dare you to reread the card. We don't modify Chinese behavior. We allow them to come to the diplomatic table, but to the extent that you think any of that's new, which is not because it's been embedded throughout the entire debate, I dare you to reread their link and find an impact or an impact turn. And again, all of their impact terms can be answered by what I said in the 2EC. What my partner said is that all conflicts have residual impacts, and conflicts are on the decline. The leaders are rational, and there's not enough money. Even if yes, it's true, there are still conflicts happening, but it's not to the scale. It's not to the scale that they were before, which proves that things are getting better. Yes, that's an answer because that means that all of their grandstanding about how we just reapply violence because we try to do things is answered by the fact that that's good. And again, each war has approximate cost. So even if we reify the causes of violence, we can solve those so they never actually escalate.
Back on framework and sort of like the cause militarization stuff.
Yeah, we don't cause militarization. You can justify. We've justified our research, and it's based off of years of studies and consultations, which proves that we don't reify that. To the extent that we do, what?
It's not about competing methodologies. It's about what our plan specifically is.
Yeah, it's about our
like not militaristic.
Our plan is not militaristic by nature. That's fine.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Can I send my case cards in a separate bag?
Yeah.
BF card documents.